Welcome to Resco webinar about new features, this time about version 11.0. My name is Juraj Mojik, I'm a technical product manager here at Resco, and this time I have a little help with me, my two colleagues from our product team, Zuzana and Dusan, who will help me with this webinar. This webinar will take about 45 minutes to 1 hour, depending on the content and your questions. And as always, you are at this moment muted, but if you have any questions at any time during the webinar, feel free to write that into the GoToWebinar window and we will answer the questions at the end of the webinar. This webinar is being recorded and the YouTube recording will be made available shortly after the webinar concludes. I think that's it for the start, so let's talk about our next release, which is version 11.0. It was released in March 2018, so about 6 months ago, and it contains at least 36 new features, some of which we will introduce today. We will talk about the synchronization improvements, about merging and sending logs to server automatically. We will show you how to import and merge on the lists. We will take a look at mobile reports and the rules. We will also show you images and text annotations, improvements on the maps, and we will walk you through the geocoding feature, which has been in the Woodford tool for some time, but there have been some improvements. So let's start with the first topic, which is synchronization. There are a couple of key concepts about synchronization. For example, we always synchronize per data object, so every entity is synchronized separately. We have the first synchronization, which means that there is no data in the mobile application, and the mobile application needs to get data from the server. So it will load all the records from the server, or all the one that comply with the sync filter, and that is what we call the first sync. The next sync is called incremental synchronization, and it happens after the first synchronization. So we synchronize the change records, for which we use the raw version on the tables or the modified dates, and we upload only changed fields. So on the mobile device, we track what the user has changed, which field, and we will send that to the server. But sometimes what happens is what we call a synchronization conflict. The synchronization conflict means that the same record, or more precisely, record with the same ID, has been modified at the server and on the mobile device. The mobile device was offline and a record has been modified, or at the same time, since the last synchronization, the same record has been modified on the server. What happens when the synchronization conflict occurs? This depends on the conflict resolution strategy. This is something you set in the Woodford configuration tool. You go onto the entity of your choice, select this on conflict option, and there you have 4 possibilities. Server wins, which means that the user will see no error, but automatically the server-side record is taken and is overriding the mobile record. The device wins means that the mobile record is sent to the server and overrides the server version of the record. The difference between device wins and device wins full is something which I mentioned in the previous slides, is that we on the mobile device, we track which fields have been modified. And device wins means that we send only those fields that have been modified by the user and we'll leave out the other fields. However, device wins full means that we will send to the server also those fields which weren't modified at all. Finally, there is the user action option. This lets the user choose what happens, and this is how it looks like. So after synchronization, the user will see a new item on the home form, synchronization errors, and they will see the list of errors that occurred. Some of them were conflicts, and the user can select the action. You can see these actions on the screen. This is what the user usually sees, so they can retry. That means that during next synchronization, the record will be sent to the server again. Or the user can choose ignore, which means that the record will not be sent to the server at all, or until it is modified again. There is the take server version, which I think is obvious. So we will take the server record and override the local one. It can be emailed, this conflict, to some administrator. And the new option is merge. So how does merge look like? The user in the sync errors home item, when clicking on the resolve, will see a window like this, where the user will see the server and the mobile record side by side. There, the user can select which record is the master, if the online or the offline record, and then field by field select which are the values that the users want to keep. Another improvement in the synchronization were in regards to the application logs. So, as you probably know, the application is storing some information about what's happening during, for example, synchronization, or when the application crashes, or when there is something with the rules or JavaScript. We have separate logs in the mobile application in regards to these 4 areas, and these are combined into one big log, which the user can send manually when going to About and clicking the Send Log icon. Then the native email client is open up, and the email address in 2 can be set up via branding. So in the mobile project, you can set up which is the address that the user sees here. But obviously this means that there has to be manual action by the user. So user has to go into the application, go into the About, send the log, which can take some time, and which usually means that if you have a support team, many times they just pick up their phones and say, please send us the logs, because that's only how we know what has happened. The great new thing which we have is that the synchronization log, so the part of the log which is about synchronization, now can get sent to the CRM server automatically during synchronization. For this to happen, you have to go in the mobile project in the auditing section, enable auditing, and enable log synchronization event. When these 2 things are enabled, the mobile app will start automatically sending the logs. Where you can find them? So if you want to access these logs as raw data, you can take a look at Resco Mobile Audit Entity. That's one of the entities that Resco Woodford creates automatically. And in the description field, you will find the synchronization log. There are many different operations that can be tracked. But part of the synchronized event or the sync finish event, you will see if you open up the Resco Mobile Audit that there are different types of events. There, the description will contain the synchronization log. But if you want to just conveniently view the logs within Woodford, you can just open the Security tab, select the device, the user, open View Sync Logs, and you will see the logs that have been retrieved from that device and from that user. And I will show you all this in the short demonstration. So the first thing I want to show you is the mobile application. And let's start with the synchronization conflict. So what I will do as a first thing, I'll open my contacts and I open Alan Brewer. By the way, if you haven't seen this, this is our desktop application, but it works the same as the iPad or the Android app. So let me change something, for example, the last name on the Alan Brewer, or let's provide the fax number here and save Alan. The next thing I want to do is modify the same record on the server side. So I have my contacts here. Here is Alan. I open Alan's details. And again, I can change the mobile phone, or I can also provide the fax number here as well. I've already have gone into Woodford and set the things in there, so let me show you that as well. So here in Woodford, on the contacts, I have made sure that the user action is selected. So now if I just synchronize, I get synchronization errors on top. When I open this app, I see Alan Brewer, I see the contact, and I see there was a conflict. So as a user, I can click on that and hit resolve. And here are the options, and the new one, merge. And as you can see, I see the server and the local copy of the record. I see both of the options, so I can select, yeah, this is probably the best last name and first name. I can leave the mobile phone empty, or I can select this one, and so on. And by hitting save, my record has been merged, so the server side and the local version of the record has been updated accordingly. So these were the conflicts, but we also talked about the synchronization logs. And I've already done the setup in Woodford. Let me open it up like this. So in auditing, I have enabled auditing and log synchronization event enabled. So I can check the logs from previous synchronization, from the synchronization I just did. So I can go into the security. I can scroll a little bit here, and I'll sort this by synchronization date. So this is the latest one, today. This is my computer. And if I go here, the new option saying the logs, I'll see all the logs that have been downloaded for this device. And if I double click this one, I see the details. The details are quite rich. You can see the synchronization start, you can see the synchronization summary, but you can also see the conflict, for example, that it happened, and that there was custom handling, the user handling was enabled. I can also see how long the synchronization took, and so on. And conveniently, if I copy this text, I can paste it, I can examine it. But what we will bring in our forthcoming releases is a way to analyze this data in Woodford as well. So you will be able to dig deeper into the data, maybe set some triggers. If a certain keyword appears in your synchronization log, an email will be sent to the administrator, so you can do something about it proactively. What you can do even right now is, since this is stored in the Resco mobile audit entity, you can build similar triggers yourself already. But as I said, this is something that we will bring as well. If you show this feature to your support teams, I believe that they will be quite excited, because this saves a lot of steps in figuring out what the problem is during the synchronization process. The next part of my presentation is about the view improvements. And there we have been working around data deduplication. So you probably noticed that the CRM system is only as good as the data within the CRM system. And very often there are duplicates. The contact is twice, the account is twice in the database, and so on. One side note is that we support duplicate detection rules from Dynamics 365 or CRM. So if you have them set up on the server side, we can just load them into the mobile application with one click. But that's not what I want to talk about, because many times the users are the best to do the deduplication. And they can merge multiple records manually themselves. This is why we've introduced the merge action. It's an action on the views or on the lists, and it's a multi-select action. And if the user selects 2 or more records, they are able to select which are the fields, their values, and which is the output record. They can set the status for merged records, so the ones which will be considered not active anymore can have inactive status, and also what happens with the child records. So every one of them can have different appointments, different emails attached, and you probably want to put these child records under the one merged record. So this is now possible in the mobile app. But what's also possible is a way to import more records. Again, it's an action on list or views, and it uses CSV files. So the CSV file is basically just a text file, but you can create these files with Excel, etc., similar tools. And it looks like this. There is the first line, which are the technical names, so what we call a logical name of the fields. So all lowercase technical names. Then you have the records that you want to import. We also have lookup resolution, so you can see the last parameter is a lookup field, right? And that one we use by name. So if you provide the name, we can match. The application tries to match this to an existing customer record. If you go and do this in the mobile app, there will be a dialog during the import process, and there you select what is the limiter, so what is used to separate the values. If it has headers, you can also define which fields from the CSV file will map to fields in the entity, so you can select that here. But also if you select one of the fields as unique, the application, when it finds a record with these fields already present, it will skip that record, so it will not insert it into database. Let me show this in another demonstration. So for this, I have to start with Woodford, and I'll open my mobile project, and I'll go again to the contact, but this time on the list. I'll open the list, the view, and I'll check the multi-select actions. And conveniently, I have the import and merge commands here right away. So I can just save this, save my view, and publish my customizations so they will get into the mobile app. I'll now switch to the mobile app and synchronize to see my changes. And if I go onto contacts and I'll tap and hold on the view, these circles will appear, which mean that I have activated the multi-selection mode. And the first thing I want to show you is the import. So I'll click here, and I have the import action available. I'll just select this one, context to import CSV, and probably what's worth is showing the actual file, which is basically the file which was on the screenshot. So you can see I have the first name, last name, full name, address, one city, parent customer ID. I can select which of them are here. The comma is the correct delimiter, but I have different options here as well. And all these settings are pretty much fine. I could select that maybe with if someone with the same full name would be found during importing, then I would just omit that and do not insert that record into the database. And I can just run, and you can see 3 records were imported, and I can check if they are really present in the database. So if I switch back to the list, you can see what Joseph contact O, and Peter imported. So if I go there, you can see Josephs are here, and also, Peter will be here somewhere. Yeah, here is. But you probably noticed that the Joseph was very similar, so that might be a mistake. That might be a record that needs merging. So I can just tap and hold again, select these two records, and click merge. And now you can see the merge dialog, where I can select which one is the master record which I want to keep, and which are the statuses which will be set to the other records. I can select the fields, and I can select what happens. I can, for example, set that the nodes will be reparented from this inactive record to the master record. By saving, my changes will be applied. And if I go back, you probably notice that there is still Joseph contact and Joseph contact O. The reason for this is that my view doesn't have a filter for status, so I see both active and inactive contacts. But what's interesting, my sync filter has the condition that only active contacts should be synced. So after synchronization, if I go back, you will see that now my Joseph contact O has been removed from the database. If you don't know about what just happened, if this is confusing to you, check some of our documentation about synchronization, because that is where the answer resides. So the final section which I will present, and then I will ask my colleagues to continue, is about rules in mobile reports. So you probably know that we have mobile reports, a way how to generate documents offline, even without connectivity. But there was a challenge. We needed to add some elements which were dynamic on the mobile reports, because they were quite static. So for example, if you want to show and hide some fields, depending on the content of another field, that was not possible. Or if you wanted to calculate something directly on the report, like the next appointment date, was not possible, or concatenating multiple strings into one. For that, we have created rules in mobile reports, very similar to the rules you know from forms or from views. And to activate the rules, you just have to add a new variable, one of the 4 types that we have here, and then define the onCreate rule. The onCreate rule, what's important to know about it is that it's evaluated when the element is created. So you go into the body section or into the repeater section, and there you can define the variables and define the rules. So when the body is created, your variables will be created and the onCreate rule will fire. In repeater, it's a little bit different. For every line of the repeater which is drawn on the report, the variable will be recreated, and therefore the onCreate rule will fire again. Another important thing about the onCreate rule is that the order of variables matter. So what I mean by this is that here in this variable I see only the variables above in the onCreate rule, but I don't see the 2 below. And in the signature visible I would see all of them, all of these variables, and I could use them. I think this one will be really clear with the demonstration. So switching to Woodford, I'll step out of the project and open mobile reports. So I have this proforma with signature, which is a report for an order entity. This one has a node signature attached, so I will clone this one and create a version which will have some logic. I'll open that one. So as you can see, it has a header, grid, Resco and the customer address. Then we have a summary, how much there is total amount, where we should send that. And then there is a repeater. So every product is written in the repeater. So every product that has been ordered will be written in a grid. What's also interesting is that I have this image here. That's the signature that is stored as a note attached to the order, and that will be displayed here. Actually, if I check the binding, you will see that it's basically any note that it will find. The first note it will find attached to the sales order will be used as the signature. And the first thing I want to do here is I want to hide this annotation if there is no signature provided. The second thing I want to do is calculate how many products are in this grid and display it here. So to do that, I will go into the body, and here the edit sources option is available. So I'll click that and add some of the variables. So the first one will be decimal and will be the product count. The second one will be used to find out if there is the signature. So to do that, I have actually to try to load that signature in my rules. So I'll call this one the signature, and it will be loading obviously the notes, and I'll just add a little filter here that the regarding should be set to the sales order. Here we go. And the final one will be a variable that will control the visibility of the signature. So again, add this time a Boolean variable called signature visible. And I'm basically set with all this. So what I can do is save this and go here into the annotation and provide signature visible in these curly brackets to make sure that that variable is used to control the visibility of this item. Here I wanted to add one more row, one more cell, which will be saying the product count. Let it span 2 columns. And here, I'll just use my variable, which is on the bottom, which will be the product count. But so far, there is no logic. I've just used the variable. So I have to go back to my body, edit the sources, and provide the onCreate rule. So basically, I want to provide the onCreate rule for the signature visible. So I'll go here and add a condition that if my signature, this contains data, which means the signature was loaded, there is at least one node attached to this order, then I'll set my signature visible variable to true. Otherwise, if there is no signature, I'll just make sure that my signature is not visible. Like this. What about the product count? For the product count, I have to go to the repeater and click Edit Sources here. Unfortunately, there is one thing that I have to have at least one other variable. I cannot use the onCreate on the fetch, so I'll just create something temporary here, just to be able to activate the onCreate rule. But here, I'll do something simple. I say the product count, add 1 to the product count, so increase by 1. Remember that for every line in this grid, the onCreate rule will fire, meaning that it will increase every time a new product is displayed in the grid. And I should be done. So basically my report is finished. I should be able to see product count in here, and the annotations should be on the screen or not based on the actual provided image. I can now switch to the mobile app. I don't even have to synchronize, I just have to switch to online mode, open orders, and we can open this one, run mobile. Oh, this one is closed, but it should be fine. So run mobile report, which one? This one, the logic, and run. And let's see, so if I go here, you can see I have 10 products, and I guess, yeah, this looks like 10 products to me. And also, there is no other page present. However, if I go to the breaks, where I have created the signature before, and go back to my order, and run mobile report, you will see that again I have my product count, but this time I also have the signature. If I wouldn't have my logic present, this second page will be always rendered, but the signature inside would not. So this can be controlled by the rules since version 11.0. And at this point, I would like to ask my colleague Dusan to join me in the webinar and continue with the next section, which is about text annotation on the images.
Thank you, Juraj. So, as Juraj mentioned, the next one on the list is text annotation. So, this newly added feature is adding text besides previously existing functionalities for picture editing. So for this text, you can define your font size, you can define colors, and also the transparency levels that will be displayed. Okay? After you are done editing your photo and you save your picture, the text is stored together with original picture as one. So it's just edit. So the edit text is just are pixels in the image itself. So if we see it in the application in a short demo, so let's add an image. I will choose an existing image, or I could capture it. Okay, and if we go to the edit image functionality, the editing window appears. So here we can set up the thickness of our brush, the color, or the transparency. So let's say we want to mark this area, okay, because this is something wrong, and I want to add text. So this is the new functionality. So if I add text, okay, I will say that we have merchandise is missing here. I can adjust the size of the text. I can change the color. We can play around with the transparency. Okay. We can move it around. We want to put it in the place that we want to. Okay. And then once we're done, we just click here. Also, we can flip around the image if we want to, if you're not familiar with the editor, and also you can go back after you do something that you didn't want to. So once the image is saved, if you want to open it and edit it again, you can see this text is already as a part of the image, so you cannot edit it anymore. Okay. In this release, we also have some map improvements. Okay. Previously, one of the issues users are facing is that if there are too many pins in one area, it becomes confusing and we can't really see how many registers we have there. So This was resolved by using what we called aggregate pins. Basically, the aggregate pin indicates the number of registers at the same approximate area. As you zoom in and out, this changes and is grouping the registers. Once you click on the aggregate pin, details of the corresponding registers appear. From there, you can open the entity form of the particular record. Okay? Keep in mind that this behavior changes slightly based on the platform you're using. So this is from the Windows app. It looks slightly different on your iOS or Android device. Okay, how is this configured? So basically, the aggregate pins can be configured two different ways. You can configure it on your mobile project level, so it applies for the whole project and all the views of the map in your mobile project, or you can do it separately on the form in this place, so you can enable it or disable it just for particular forms. Okay. One additional feature that we have here is also initial position based on a map. Until now, you could define only a fixed region for initial map position. Now this can be dynamic based on a record you're currently viewing. So the setup is done on the associated tab. Okay, basically this could be used when you're looking at your account and you want to see related contacts to this account. Basically the map will zoom in at the position of the account, and what will be displayed is related contacts to this account. Let's see it, how it looks like in the application itself. Okay, I exit from here, I go to a map. You can see I have aggregate pin here. As I scroll in, it's dividing my registers into separate pins. If I click on the pin, I have the possibility to open it directly from here, okay? And the form is opened, okay? How is this set up? Let's see it in Woodford. Okay, what I will open now is a Woodford HTML version. If you're not yet familiar with it, we suggest you can test it on your own. It's a new Woodford that will replace the old one that you know. Okay, let's see it. So basically, as we said, in the configuration itself, if you do it on the project level, just go to the map in aggregation, and I want to disable it. You do it here. If I publish my project, go back to my app and sync it. My registers, as you can see, are displayed in a bunch, okay, which is in this case not particularly convenient. If you want to see the initial position based on a register, which is the new dynamic feature, if we go into the register, so for example in this case this is already set up, you can see that this is the account location here near Boston, okay, and this map, which is for contacts, is centered around it, okay. Vice versa. I mean, this is my account, and this is its position. As you can see, this is the contacts view. There's just one contact related to this account, and the map is positioned on where the contact is in the center. So this is how it's centered. And with this said, we can proceed. I will give a word to my colleague Zuzana. Zuzana?
Hello everyone, my name is Susanna and I will guide you through our last feature for today, which is geocoding. Geocoding in Woodford solves our problem with large data sets with no location data. It means that geocoding basically translates address information of the records into GPS data. It means that it provides latitude and longitude where needed, and also works vice versa, meaning if we only have GPS data and we need to get addresses from that, we can also use this feature. Just to point out, the GPS data is very important in Woodford, is necessary for displaying records on the application map correctly. I will give you a quick walkthrough through the geocoder in Woodford. I will show you all the fields and toolbars we can see here and how to set them up. So first of all, we have to select the entity from which we want to take the records and which we want to be geocoded. Then we have to select respective fields of the address, meaning that under the street, if the information about the street is stored under the entity field address line, we use this one. We also can check the box set additional street field, which gives us an option to use more fields if there is more information on the street. Then we have the same work goes for the city, state and postal code. So we just choose the respective categories of the entity fields. Then next fields we fill out is latitude and longitude, and this basically means it's where we're going to store the information about latitude and longitude. Another checkbox that's available, it's find position by query. We can use this when this is suitable for records that are often missing some important pieces of information, such as city or zip code, and then a different Bing search will be used. Another features that are quite valuable, we can filter the records, for example by using edit filter and creating simple rules and conditions, and therefore we don't have to geocode all the records from the entity advance, which takes a long time, but we basically can filter them as in other parts of Woodford. Also, there is another button that is select view, but I have to point out that this is designed only for Microsoft Dynamics, as we need actually system view here, and this is not available in Resco CRM. Last but not least, we need to obtain a Bing map key, which I will tell you a little bit more later in the next slide. And then I'll show you this is a toolbar where we can fetch data. Now on the right hand side, without using any filters, all the records from the respective entity show up. And with the entity name, street, city, and all information provided. And we can also then click on the little eye here, which provides us with the detail of the addresses. This will be demonstrated more clearly in the demo at the end of this slideshow. And also here are the buttons find position when we want to actually move on to the geocoding itself, and find address when we already have latitude and longitude, and what we need is actually to fill in the address for the record. So a Bing map key we actually need to obtain from Bing Maps portal. They have different kinds of licenses. I personally use the basic key, which is for free, and there is a limit of 125,000 transactions per calendar year. And I would like to kindly ask you to look at the Microsoft website for other licensing options. In this Bing Maps portal, you can either log in under your normal Microsoft account, or you can even create a new account just for the Bing Maps key. And last but not least, we introduced in our spring release this new option filters, which had not been available until then, and which me personally, I think that it's very important as I already mentioned, you can break down the entity records into several sections, and therefore it does not take such a long time to geocode them, and it really does save a lot of time. So I will show you later in the demonstration, but basically use the filter as in any other parts of Woodford. You just create simple rules and conditions. So let me go to my demo. I will open my Woodford. Okay, let me bring it up. So as you can see, the geocoding section is located here amongst other sections on the left-hand side. Let me first show you the Bing Maps portal so I can get my key from there. I'm already logged in my account. You can find on my account my keys. You just basically need to create a new key. It's a very easy solution. I'll click on copy key and go back to my Woodford. I'll just pass the key here. Okay, so I would like to select an account entity. And given that this is basically the default setup, meaning I didn't make any additional changes. I mean, my street is stored under address line 1, my city is under entity field address city, etc., etc. Just to demonstrate, I will click quickly on the set additional street field, so you can see if you had more fields that fall under the street, you can set them here and also choose their order with these string parameters. I unclick this as I don't need it now. And latitude, longitude, I would like to be stored under this field as is by default. I don't need find position by query as my records are not missing any important information. So now I can fetch data, and you can see all the entity records are displayed on the right side. I can even sort them by entity name, for example. And I created several test accounts, which, as you can see, don't have any latitude and longitude information, so we basically need to get these out of the address. As I don't want to geocode all of them, because as I can see they already are filled in, I can use the edit filter option, where I can add condition that, for example, address latitude does not contain data. Also, just to show you, you can basically use any you need. Also, what might be useful is that it's been created on, for example, today. As anywhere else in Woodford, you can group these conditions, etc., etc. Now I save and close it. Now when I click fetch data again, it just chooses the data that are filtered by the conditions I just put in. So now we can select them all. These need to be selected in order for us to be able to click on the buttons up here. And what we need to do is find the positions of these test accounts that have filled in addresses but not GPS details. Okay, so as we can see, it worked. Latitude and longitude have been found. And also let me introduce you to this little legend down here. Okay, I'm sorry, probably give me a second. Yeah, I apologize for that. So here you can see that the entity name is actually color-coded. It means that now the latitude and longitude has been filled in the first time, so it's in green and it's new. In case it was unmodified, it was still black. In case it was changed somehow, it would turn blue. So, and now we can also try the other way around. According to latitude and longitude, we can just see what it gives us when we want to find an address, if there are any changes in the addresses that we already put in. Okay, so we can see this has been, for example, changed. There has been added this number, and it means that this is even more accurate address based on the latitude and longitude, and it's in blue. And I can also show you, when you click on this little I button, you can even adjust the address like this on the map, set of the location, address, confirm, and then it changes. And as for my part, I apologize, sorry, you have to click on save, so you actually save the records and it's sent directly to the server and it's saved then. And from my side, that's all. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks, Susanna. And let me continue. And before we get to the questions, which I think that there are some already, let me just mention that there are still additional improvements, additional new features that are in the spring release of Resco, and that are, for example, automatically tracking email threads. So the whole thread of your communication will be automatically tracked. We have now the option to have Google Maps on iOS, which is a setting in Woodford or in the mobile app. We support Dynamics 365, multi-select pick lists, and we also support the new types of barcodes. All of this based on your requirements, your requests. And if you want to see the full list, just follow into our website and check the details there. Before we get to the questions, there are a couple of things I want to mention. First thing is that there is another webinar planned very shortly after this one. It will be about new features of version 11.1, which is our summer release, which will be this Thursday, so exactly in next week, at the same time as this one, at the same place as this one. What we will be showing is the DocuSign integration, how to sign documents which were generated by Resco mobile reports. We will show you exciting new scheduler component, which is bringing a lot of new functionality into the Resco app. We will show you how favorites are now stored as records so they can be shared between devices. Additional improvements on the map, like creating new records directly by tapping and holding, and new rules on the media tab. So I highly recommend attending it. And what I also highly recommend is our Resco Next conference, which you've probably heard is happening in November 15 and 16 in the beautiful city of Prague in Czech Republic. It will be 2 days all about Resco mobile solutions, so things like mobile sales, field service, our new inspections and route planner, or even City Smart services. You will get all the tips and tricks, you will hear customer stories and partner stories as well. So really great event which is coming up this November. If you want to know more, go to resco.net/next and learn more and register. One final thing, you probably heard that Resco was featured in the Gartner's Magic Quadrant for mobile application development platforms as a niche player. You've probably seen this image, but if you want to know more, again, head to our website and find out what this means for Resco and how we're gonna take this further. And now the moment you probably have been waiting for, and that's the question. So let me open up the window and see what we have here. So there are quite a few, and if you have more, feel free to write them into the window, and I'll start with the help of my colleagues to try answering all of them. There is a question about the upload only changed field. So you'll probably recall at the very beginning we were talking about the synchronization, and I mentioned that during the during the work with the mobile application, we track which fields were modified and which were not. And if the question is if in the form rule you can somehow say which are the fields that have been modified. Unfortunately, you don't have access to this data via rules or even via JavaScript, so this is currently not available to you. Another question is about the merge option. So if you have a conflict or if you have some merging, if there is a preview, so you can check how the final record looks like, that's a good idea. We will write it down and see what we can do. At the moment, there is no preview, so the action is executed right away, but it's a good idea to have a step in between and show some preview of the change, how the record will look like. Another question from them is, let me read through it. So if there is any configuration per user or per device, so logins to prevent concurrent login by the same content. So you might have a user who is logging in from two different devices and you want to somehow limit this. So let me maybe show you this. So we have the Resco Woodford, we have the security section, and the security section is based on devices. It is not based on users, and you have different security policies. Each security policy has its own rules, which you can set here, like the application is locked or wiped out or something. And by default, all new devices will go into the default policy. So if you want to restrict some devices, you can just make the default policy restrictive. You can make it to log application, so it will be the user will be not able to use the app at all. And then the administrator can manually move the devices into the less restrictive policy, which will allow the users to use it. This probably, at the moment, the only option which you have to manage some concurrent use of the same of the application by the same user on different devices. But that's one of our strong points, that we do not limit, we do not charge per device, we charge per user. So it can be looked from also the different point of view. Some more questions from them about the merge feature available for custom entity. Of course, as all other features from Resco, they are available for any type of entity. Print PDF, which was generated by mobile report, if it's possible, from the Resco app. Yes, that's directly available. When you generate the mobile report, there is the print option right away. One more question about the drag and drop pin to capture latitude and longitude. You've seen this in the geocoding section. There it was possible. In the mobile app, we have something which we will show you in the next webinar, so maybe check that one out and maybe you will get this part of the question answered. I don't want to go further. Color coding map pins. So you have the map, you wanted to have different looking pins for different types of accounts, if that is possible. Yes, that is one of the standard features of Resco. I think we have it covered in one of our basic webinars, but if you cannot find this information, how to color code map pins, feel free to write a line to our support team at mobilecrm@resco.net, and they will be happy to point you to the correct documents. Geocoding in Resco requiring Google Map API key. That one is actually the Bing Map key, so we don't require Google Map key. That one even wouldn't work. We require Bing Map key for the geocoding to work. A question about geocoding, if it is free, how many records you can geocode? I think this was answered in one of the slides, but just to repeat the answer, the basic key from Bing is free up to 125,000 requests per year. So that's how many records you can geocode for free in 1 year. If you need to geocode more, you will probably have to go for a different option in the Bing Map keys. Let me see what we have here. extra fields in the merge process. So I'm not sure if I entirely understand why this would be required. So what kind of fields would you need for the user to decide? But in the merge dialog, the user would see all the fields for that entity which are available in Woodford. So the user will see really the full list, not only the fields which are on the view, but the user would see the full list of all the records for that entity which are enabled in Woodford. So that probably should be enough, but let us know if not. Maximum number of records to geocode in one run. I would say that there is no maximum which comes from Resco, but if you try this process, you will see that we send the records to be geocoded in web requests, and every request take some time, a second, let's say, or even half a second, but still it takes a significant time. Because if you run this for 1,000 of records, 10,000 of records, that might be 1,000 of seconds, or even 500 seconds might be too much. So there is no real limit in the maximum number of records to geocode, but I would say there is a logical limit, because you probably won't be sitting there next to your Woodford for a couple of hours until it finishes. Let me see the next question. A rubber feature, interesting one. So you write something on the text annotation, or you work with the image editor with Resco, you write something, you draw something, you want to delete that. Currently, I don't think we have the rubber, so a way to erase it. We have the undo feature, so you can step one step back, but you cannot rubber it. But this is another interesting idea, so we'll write this down and let you know. Offline reports, if there is a way or a document that would explain how to work with mobile reports. I think that we have some webinars. I personally have done some webinars about mobile reports as part of our series. So that one's definitely available. I don't think we have a dedicated document just for mobile reports, but we can check and let you know via email. And these seem to be all the questions that we received in this webinar. So I thank you very much for your attention. I hope it was useful and you learned something new. And I also hope that I will see most of you or all of you in the next webinar, which we have in a week. So thank you once again for your attention, and see you next time.